Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Dodge this.
Welcome to the Holy Moment Podcast, a podcast where we watch movies with you and discuss the moments that work, the moments that don't, and the moments that reflect truth in unexpected ways. Today we're talking about the movie Life is Beautiful, directed by Roberto Begnini, written by Roberto Begnini, and starring Roberto Begnini. This is actually, I don't know if you've caught on to this, Nathaniel, but this is continuing a trend from the last several episodes of directors and visionaries who are very involved in multiple aspects of their film's creation. Right?
Yeah, I mean, last week with The Velocipaster, we had, writer, editor, and director for Velocipaster. So truly visionaries.
An oversimplification of her beauty, edited, written by, starring, directed by Terrence Nance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just find that very interesting, these past few movies, and makes me think of auteur theory, which we discussed in school, where like the director is the sole visionary and everyone else is just an accessory, except this takes it to an extreme where they're just doing everything.
Yeah, I can't imagine being someone who wants to write and direct. I cannot imagine directing and also acting in something. I can, but I also feel like it would be really hard to be fair and to direct yourself well while directing other people. I just feel like there'd be kind of a weird line to cross as far as being like, oh, I know I did great, but I know exactly what you need to change. Or even vice versa, where you're focusing too critically on yourself as an actor to give other people, feedback. It can be done, as we have seen, but I think that would be very hard for me.
It's a very hard thing to juggle. I did it for my senior project in film school, where I directed and wrote and acted my project out. But I felt that it was hard to balance the responsibilities of director and the responsibilities of actor.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I wish I'd given more time to prepping for the role rather than being so concerned with getting the minutia of the visuals and everything else right. But this movie is significant because it won the Oscar for Best Actor as well as Best Foreign Film for the year that it came out.
Okay.
And that puts it in a very small category of films that won Best Actor for a movie that actor directed.
It won Best Actor at the Golden Globes for its year?
So I'll check it just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure Life is Beautiful.
I guess I don't know what movies came out that year, but I'm a bit surprised. You being an actor, Jeffrey, I would like to hear your take on it. Roberto Bellini?
Yeah.
Begnini?
Roberto Begnini.
Roberto
he won
Begnini.
Best Actor and Best Foreign Language Film in 1999.
That's...
And you disagree with that?
I think I do. I don't know. Granted... Well, wait. Yeah, if it was at the 1990... There was a bunch of great movies that came out in 1999. First off, I'm pretty sure the first Matrix came out in 1999. And again, obviously, Best Foreign Film, that wouldn't, the Matrix was made in the United States. But things like acting, I just wasn't all that convinced by Roberto's... It's also so fun to be able to say Roberto, to roll your R with his name.
Roberto.
Yeah. I'm sure that won't get old. But I just wasn't super convinced by his acting, which is something I want to talk about in general about the movie when we get into it. But I kind of forgot that you told me that it was kind of that he directed and acted and it won an award, because I didn't think of that when I was watching it. But now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, I don't know if I see it personally, but obviously I am in the minority, maybe.
Maybe if you saw it again with those eyes that it won an award, you'd look for moments more where I feel like I thought it was a really good performance. Was it Oscar worthy? I'm not sure. I don't know what other movies came out that year. I think that there were moments that did strike me as particularly poignant because of his performance, right? Because of how the character is in most contexts versus those very specific contexts where who he is challenged in a very deep way. For example, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yes, I jumped right on in.
No, it's fair. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to discuss the movie and tear into the minutia of it. Anyhow, life is beautiful. I want your first impressions. I want to see where you're coming from before we dive in.
Yeah, well, where I'm currently coming from is a tiny ass closet sweating my balls off in a 90-degree heat advisory closet. So that is where I'm currently coming from. No, Jeffrey, I have the privilege of understanding your strife every week. Normally, I'm in my big office, air conditioning with my big monitor, and I can like have a million tabs up and see everything. But right now I'm on my tiny little Mac Pro, just like my little desk, my little laptop, and it's struggling. I don't know if you guys can hear the fan, but it's whirling away, and I'm in a closet because I'm currently not at my own house for a very extended long time. So I'm filming in a friend's closet, and they don't have AC upstairs, and it's like 95 here in Iowa. So I'm very hot. Secondly, where I came from with this film, because this all leads into something, I swear. Also at this friend's house, there's not a TV, so I had to watch it on my laptop. But I got halfway through the movie last night, and I'm in Iowa currently working a fireworks stand. I do it every summer. It's a lot of fun, but it's also pretty strenuous. So I got halfway through at 11:30, and I was like, I have to go to bed. I am dead tired. So I was like, okay, I'll finish it at the fireworks stand. So I went to bed. Fast forward to this, like literally 6 hours ago at the fireworks stand. It's 95 degrees outside. It's blaring bright. My computer can't connect to the internet, so I have to watch the film on my phone. So like 95 degrees outside with the sun like shining on the screen. I'm trying to watch this beautiful movie on my tiny little Android phone. So all that to be said, I might not have the best first impression of this movie, and it might not be the movie's fault. It might be my conditions in which I had to watch the movie, which is not the movie's fault. But yeah, going in, I knew very little. I know Jeffrey mentioned it was a Holocaust movie, but it was a lighthearted Holocaust movie compared to a lot of Holocaust movies. And that's really it. So I didn't really know what to expect. I guess I knew it won Best Oscar for acting. I knew it was a Holocaust movie, but not a sad Holocaust movie. So I will say, out of all the movies, this is one of the ones I went into the most blind. I just really had no spectrum for what it was going to be like. And you know what threw me for the biggest loop, Jeffrey?
What?
How you talked about it made it seem like a really old movie. And then when I started it, I was like, oh yeah, how it's filmed, how it looks, the acting, I swore it's from the 70s. The fact that this was filmed in 1998 blew my mind. I don't know if for better or for worse. Like, obviously, it's a period piece. It's during World War I. But it just felt so old. I think in an impressive way, because I think a lot of people believe, film from the 1970s were some of the best movies out there. So the fact that they could capture this old, grainy look, the way the camera moved, the way the colors and the saturation and the over-the-life acting was impressive. But it was weird that it was a movie filmed in like the late 1990s, and then it's a movie that kind of looked like the 60s or 70s, but it was a period piece of World War II. So it just felt like a really weird combinations of filming techniques and like actual filming dates of how it was released.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that I think that part of the over-the-top acting might just be that they're Italians, because I see interviews, of Roberto Begnini, right, and he is just as animated, just as energetic, right, and mobile as Guido is in this film, right, hopping on top of furniture, giving people big hugs, and it's really excited, massive grin on his face.
That's beautiful. I think I don't really know any Italians. Did you know? I don't remember if you remember this, Jeffrey, but for a short period, in college, I served at Olive Garden for about 3.5 years. But for a short period, while I served at Olive Garden, I had really long hair. And at one point, just two older ladies mentioned that it was cool to see an Italian guy work at Olive Garden. and I'm not. I'm half Filipino. And so I told my friends that. And for the longest time in college, they would just refer to me as the Italian guy. And I thought that. So me being an Italian man, I can say, boppity boopity. We're not filming video for this episode, but like I'm moving my hands. I'm what did he say? Practicing the Schardinger? What's the guy's name?
It's Schopenhauer.
Schopenhauer.
It's like a will to life or whatever.
Yeah, the Italians would be good at that because they're always moving their hands, using that Schopenhauer energy. But
fun fact, yeah, that's called gesticulation. When you
no,
move
Jeffrey,
your hands
that's what you do in bed when you're alone. Don't talk about your gesticulation with me. This is a family-friendly podcast, gosh darn it.
I'm sorry, we can cut that out of the podcast.
No, we can't. I'm editing on my super archaic MacBook Pro. There's not going to be any editing this episode, guys. This computer is about to explode. If I cut out anything, any of my ums or Jeffrey's butt ums or what ifs, the computer will explode. You're getting everything. Nothing's cut out this episode.
Butt sounds like I don't know, really awful cereal.
Oh, butt eat some butt ums,
Cheerios,
kids.
butt yeah.
Juicy nuts. That's beautiful. Well, that's staying in the podcast.
Nuts. Sweet.
But I could see. Well, that's just another thing that led to, again, not the movie's fault, my fault. But now imagine 95 degrees, sun in your eyes, tiny screen on your phone, subtitles. They weren't even speaking English, so I had to read subtitles on my phone. Also led to a hard, not great first impression, but not the movie's fault.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that you did watch it subbed and not dubbed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the default setting on YouTube when I rented it was, we're gonna dub this.
Oh, is it really? Yeah, I had to rent the movie An Oversimplification of Her Beauty 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I'm not renting another movie. So it was like I think because it's an older, more iconic movie, it was streaming on like 30 platforms. Of course, none of them had subscriptions to, so I just started a free subscription just to watch the movie, and then I'm going to cancel it. Because I was like, they're not getting my $3.50.
Really? I couldn't find it. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough. But I feel like whenever I Google, hey, is this movie available for streaming? It'll show me, 10 different streaming platforms, and then I'll go to each, and it's just not there.
That is very true. I don't even this should be an episode talking about this movie, but if we start talking about streamings, I'm gonna rant and then never end. it's so dumb what streaming platforms are doing nowadays, and it's so frustrating how it's basically cable TV again, but everything's so expensive. But I found it on Philo, Philo. I've never heard of it. And I just was like, free subscription, yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, anyhow, talking about this movie, so your expectations, you had no expectations coming into it. What did you think of the character Guido?
At first, I thought he was too much. At first, I didn't like him. I thought he was a little annoying. Just so over, just cartoonishly over the top. Again, I'm not. Also, Jeffrey, this was for foreign film, correct? Your category?
Yeah.
Which I'm happy we're doing this. And like we said in episode 2 ago, I'm happy that you and I are branching out from Asian foreign film, which is what we're most used to. You're doing Italian. I think I'm doing German for my pick, or Russian or something. But I'm not super. I don't know a lot about Italian filmmakers, so I don't know. Maybe this is just like you said, Jeffrey, in their culture, this over the acting, over the top. I don't know, but I think for me, what I grew up with, it didn't land all that much. So I think at first he came across as a little annoying, but I think by the end of the movie, it became endearing. I don't think he ever crossed the line of just throwback conversation, but Who Framed Roger Rabbit? We watched this for a test episode a year ago before I actually started releasing the podcast. And Jeffrey and I both agreed that we thought the character of Roger Rabbit was just insufferably annoying. Just always going on and on about something, and you wanted to punch him in the face. I thought Guido could have been that character, but he was just charismatic enough. He was very loving to his wife. He was very protective of his son. So I thought ultimately he could have been an annoying, life is beautiful, nothing can hurt me, I can do whatever I want type of character. But I think he ended up being deeper than that and a little more interesting. And again, I don't want to say won me over by the end, but at the bare minimum, he at least didn't fall into the rabbit hole of being annoying. So that's what I would say how I feel about Guido.
Yeah, but the thing about Guido is Yes, he's very lively. Yes, he's you know, very loud, and some might call him obnoxious. But I think he's clever. He's very loving. He has a genuine love for people. And I think he's incredibly brave, and that he'll just do things, right? He sees the opportunity to assume the identity of some government official giving a speech to a school of children, right? He's lecturing them on the racial superiority of the Italians, which, I mean, he's Italian, but he's Jewish. And he just does that, right? Likewise, in the concentration camp, he sees the room with the what do you call it? The speaker.
Like the radio broadcasting room.
Yeah, the radio broadcasting room. He just goes in there and he makes his whole spiel, right?
Yeah.
There's not a second thought to it. He sees and then he acts.
Yeah. Which something I really do appreciate, and don't mind me, I'm going to jump to the very end of the movie, but spoilers, I guess, that's what you're here for, audience. I think it would have been a less impactful movie if his character, because you're right, Jeffrey, he is a kind of spur of the moment, takes life by the balls, and it works out for him more often than not. Obviously, he finds himself in a concentration camp, but he still has this charismatic luck that he's always coming out on top somehow. And I feel like it could have been an undercut to the movie, even though this movie is a more lighthearted look into the Holocaust. It still is a darker movie in a lot of ways, but, not as dark as a lot of Holocaust movies. But I feel like it could have done a disservice to that part of that world history if it didn't have the ending that it did. Because, again, he's a character that's always coming up on top. He's a character that's always so lucky, but at the end of the day, he dies. I think that was really good. I think it was really good that he didn't just kind of slapstick, kick and roll and laugh and Guido his hands all around and just escape scot-free. It would have felt a little too like, nothing can harm me. I'm invincible. Anything I do. So I'm happy that they had those, I don't want to say consequences, but I'm happy they had his character die at the end of the movie because it made him feel more heroic and charismatic. Whereas if he was just invincible, I'm going to laugh, fart, and make funny jokes, and I'm going to escape the Holocaust unscathed. I just felt like it would have been an undercut to the movie and also that history of the world history that, actually happened. So I'm very happy that they did that.
Here's the thing about Guido is he is unapologetically himself, right? He's not arrogant, right? He isn't cocksure, but he knows who he is, and he's willing to act on who he is, right? And so you never get the sense that it's not a matter of, oh, I'm behaving recklessly because I feel invincible. And when his demise comes at the end, it's not one of those situations where it's like you flew too close to the sun, your hubris got the better of you. He did what he would do. He gets caught, and he accepts that, right? There's no scrambling to get away. There's no cowardice from him. It's like, okay, I did this thing, and I did good in doing it, right? I know my kid is safe, at least for now. And so I'll confidently, almost casually walk with this Nazi guard where I know I'll meet my doom, but I'll almost kind of do it on my own terms, even though I was caught. He still felt in control of the situation, even though he demonstrably wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like how you put that. It wasn't like, it didn't feel, it could have felt like a character who's getting his comeuppance. You've been annoying, you've been a scoundrel this whole time. We're almost happy you got caught. I feel like, again, that would have been a very different movie. But for me personally, I could have felt vindicted almost like, yep, you're annoying, Guido, get out of here. But I didn't. So I think ultimately they walked that line pretty well of his over-the-top antics, but not making him insufferable or arrogant or annoying at the end of the day. So yeah, I definitely agree with that take on his character, that he's very much just himself, and he doesn't care if he looks like an idiot to anyone because he's going to do what he wants to do.
I think the thing that makes him more redeemable than, say, Roger Rabbit is he makes the lives of the people around him better. it's not that he's purely annoying and he's just getting on everyone's nerves, right? His being there and him being who he is brings joy to others, right? It allows them to see things in new ways. But with Roger Rabbit, it's just like pure obnoxiousness.
Yeah. Yeah. And one is an animated rabbit and one is a Jew going through the Holocaust. So, just a hair different. No, I'm kidding.
No. But just a hair different. It's a pun.
I didn't know it until I said it. And as I was saying a hair different, I was like, oh, I think this is a pun. Good job. So
Yeah.
good job
High
catching
five.
my accidental pun.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think that the first half, because this is a 2-act film, right?
Mhm.
The first act is basically a rom-com with darkness simmering underneath, but it's just simmering, right? It hasn't boiled over yet. Was that surprising? Did you find yourself wondering when's this gonna start?
Yeah, especially because I knew it was a movie about the Holocaust, and since the first act, does nothing with the Holocaust besides, like you said, slight simmering of racism against Jews, prejudice against the Jewish people. But yeah, I was surprised how long it took to get into the Holocaust portion, and I'll be honest, I'm surprised with the movie at times to me personally felt a little aimless. I don't think I walked away from it disappointed or thinking it was bad, but I do think I was a little like, man, we spent so much time kind of setting up this character. And again, I don't think Guido is I don't think Guido or the boy or the wife are super complicated characters. So I don't think you needed to spend half the movie setting them up. And then by the time we do get to the Holocaust, when they were prisoners in camp, I thought it was really fascinating, but I did not think the movie was going to revolve around just Guido gaslighting, not actually, but gaslighting his son into believing that the Holocaust was nothing more than like a children's game. That really surprised me. Again, going in knowing nothing, I was expecting much more of we've been captured. I was expecting, because I think I read a synopsis somewhere, and just going off what you said, I thought it was going to be Jewish, they were captured, they were put in prison, and then they make the really sad camp into like a little paradise type thing. Like the main character is really kind to the guards, and then the guards become nicer, and then like a kind of unrealistic, like the Nazis and the Jews get along in this camp and they're actually kind of friends. That's kind of the vibe I thought that was going to happen. Like, by the kindness of this Jewish person, he won over the Nazi hearts, and they had like a cute little camp where even though they were still imprisoned, they were still kind of friends. So I thought that's what we're going with. So when the second half of the movie was just Guido being like, hey son, this is just a game, play along and then you can win a tank, I think that threw me for a loop, and I feel like it made the movie feel a bit aimless at times, because I thought like there has to be something more than this. Like, is the plot just to keep the kid alive, but in also the weirdest way possible?
I think I disagree. I understand where you're coming from, but one, I think that first half, it does a good job of telling us who these characters are, right? And we're seeing them in an environment that is less than ideal, but also it isn't so overwhelmingly bad that they can't live happy lives, right? And we get to see Guido's relentless optimism and his imagination, his affability, and his ability to make the most out of complicated situations, right? And then in the second half of the movie, we see that challenged in a way that it has never been challenged before, right? And I think it allows the tragedy of the situation to hit more, seeing these characters in a happier environment and watching them fall in love with one another and build this family. And I think, to your point of what you thought the movie was going to be, is that the camp would sort of start to get along, Nazi and Jew alike. We almost see it inching in that direction when the German scientist recognizes Guido and has him, wait tables for the Nazis, right? And this gives Guido a lot of hope. And at the party, he's trying to approach the Nazi doctor to communicate a plan of attack, because he's thinking, well, this guy's my friend, right? I know him from way back when. Surely he's going to try to help me escape, right? And the doctor seems to be suggesting as much with his subtle attempts to get Guido's attention. And Guido even tells his son, listen, we're going to get out of here pretty soon. You just have to be patient, right? We're going to win. We're about to win. And then he approaches Guido, and instead of offering that plan of attack, the doctor just wants to know the answer to a riddle.
Which I thought, I have some comments to say what we said beforehand, but specifically this scene, this might have been my favorite scene of the whole movie. Because again, this is what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting, we're in the internment camps. I thought either we're going to get this kind of a weird pull, but Paddington 2, where Paddington goes into the prison, befriends the prison, and they all become chums. You've seen Paddington 2, right? Yeah. I was kind of expecting that, or Holocaust Prison Break. So when we got the doctor there, and I was like, okay, the plot can finally advance. The doctor's there. He's gonna tell them some information. They're gonna escape. It's gonna be so cool. And then when he finally just is like, I can't sleep at night. I have this riddle stuck in my brain. You're really good at riddles. Can you tell me the answer? And just the odd, because we get the idea that this is a Nazi, like a Dr. Nazi who's bad, but he ultimately cares about his Jewish friends. So maybe he's not the worst. But when we find out he's like, I can't sleep at night because I don't know an answer to a riddle. And it's like, I am a Jew in a internment camp. What are you talking about? You can't sleep at night. That was a huge, I guess it's kind of a twist. That really got me. I felt the despair in that moment, and I also love that moment because I feel like it's one of the only moments in the whole movie where Guido lets down his walls of charismatic over-the-topness. You see the defeat on his face when he thinks oh, this guy's going to help us out. So when he finds out he's just a horrible Nazi like all the other ones, he's absolutely crushed. And it really was probably my favorite scene, partially due to I was not expecting that. And the actual walls Guido let down was really the one time in the whole show that we gotta peek into Guido and realize, oh, he's not just a slapstick character. He his son and wife are going to die if he doesn't get him out of there, and he cares deeply. He's putting on a brave face and he's smiling and laughing because that's all he knows to do. But I really like that moment humanized him, and I really, really like that moment.
And seeing that moment, I agree that's one of my favorite scenes. And when you're watching that moment, that's the moment that makes you go, okay, maybe I could see how this could win an Oscar for Best Acting, right? That makes it more justified because you have this consistent characterization, and then there's a chink in the armor. But that chink in the armor is still very believable and very well communicated through facial expressions and just his nodding, his sorrowful eyes. Yeah, what were you saying?
Well, something I want to say about that is actually, I am happy that this won an Oscar. Again, I don't know all the movies that are nominated or all the movies that came out that year, but something that I do think is cool about this movie winning compared, I'm talking on my butt right now. I don't really watch the Oscars, but I feel like things that win Best Actor nowadays are usually much darker, heavier, kind of introspective, brooding characters. Didn't the main character from The Brutalist win the Best Actor? Yeah, again, I haven't seen The Brutalist, so maybe I'm talking about my butt, but that seems on par for the Golden Globes for the past 5 or so years for what they're looking for in their Best Actor. So the fact that this in 1999, it kind of shows the headspace of the country, and the fact that this guy who was more playing an over-the-top, charismatic, goofy character, who again, through his acting, had levels and depths to him of despair and stress of being in this camp with his family, but he still overall was a very fun kind of goofy guy. And I think that that's cool that type of acting and that type of character won an Oscar rather than quick find the most broody, most introspective, emotional person. I like that they pick someone with a lot of expression. Sometimes acting, I feel like can be like, oh, it's all about like the heaviness. How much can they convey with a glance? How much can they convey through their breath and the stress we can feel of them? But it's sometimes nice to see actors really expressing outwardly rather than just let's sit in this moment as this character drinks a cup of coffee and we can get into his mind space, which I love that type of stuff. But it is cool to see such an expressive character win, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and the outward expressiveness makes those quieter moments all the more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like the riddle. What am I? What goes away? What is it? What is destroyed the moment I'm spoken? What was the
Yeah.
riddle? Yeah, so
it's
silence.
silence.
Yeah, the idea of like, yeah, silence is so much more impactful, and then as soon as you start talking, it takes away. So I do agree that his over the topness did shine, or his over the topness helped those moments shine. But I think the issue is they didn't give him enough of those moments. I didn't need it all the time, but I wish we saw a few more chinks in the armor throughout the movie. I personally really feel like that was one of the very few chinks in the armor moments.
Something to consider, though, and I was thinking about this, and I haven't seen many people talk about it, is the framing of the story, right? It's being told by Guido's son, Joshua, right? And so this is a story about his father, but it's a story built from his own memories of the events and things that were told to him, probably by his father and by his mother when he was a child. Right? And so that makes the lightheartedness of the story work more than it would otherwise. Some critics say that it made light of the Holocaust or didn't really express the gravity of everything the Holocaust was. But I think the important thing to understand is his father was shielding him from that. His father was presenting a very specific image of himself to his child in order to protect him. And so, of course, we're going to get this picture of his father versus one that shows you every nitty-gritty detail.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting perspective to think about it, because it does at the very end of the movie. It's the older boy's voice coming over him like, this is the story of how my father was a hero. So that does actually really help to reframe it of this idea of like, the boy only did get to, the only time he found out about the atrocities was probably from his mother afterwards. Like when he was in the internment camp, at the end of the day, he really did believe it was all just a game. So if we frame it from the boy's perspective, the father really is this goofy, fun-loving guy, and there'd be less chinks. Also, I'd love to push back on those. I know you didn't say this, but like the critiques of other people being like,
yeah,
this plays light to an atrocity in world history. Because first off, I don't think every movie portraying the Holocaust needs to take the same angle and tone. That seems pointless when trying to tell different stories in different aspects. And what I really like about this that I haven't seen other Holocaust works of fiction do before is the mundanity of it. What I watched it with my fiance, and I told her, I was like, you know what? I haven't seen a Holocaust. Like the moments they get on the train, the moments they're taken away, the moments they go to the internment camp are usually just soaking with so much desperation and horror, which that's totally fine. That's what it was. Like that's good in some movies. But I love the mundanity of this. Just a guy showed up and he's like, hey, we're here are you Guido? Yep, I'm Guido. And well, I guess that wasn't the actual scene. I guess they did show up and raid the house. But the point is like, when they got put on the train, it just all felt so playing the emotions lower. No one was freaking out. No one was trying to revolt. Everyone just got on the train. They were taken to a location. They were put in a room. And the Germans were like, hey, you live here now. You're a slave. You don't have freedom. I liked how it showed the cruelty of it, but also the cruelty of it in such a like simple way and not the large emotions or the physical violence, and more like, just we took you from point A to point B and now you have no freedom and you're no longer a person in our eyes. And I thought it was honestly more impactful than sometimes doing a more over the top extreme, not rendition, but perspective of that portion of the Holocaust.
Yeah. And the thing about it too is a lot of the people being rounded up and put on these trains, a lot of their experiences were more mundane as well because they didn't know what they were getting into.
Yeah, that's what I loved. I don't know a lot about the Holocaust, so I want to tread carefully, but it felt so impactful of like I don't really like obviously something bad's happening, but like I don't
Yeah.
really ultimately know what's going on. So I'm on a train. Okay, I'm on a train. Now I'm in a room. Oh, I'm a slave. I don't have freedom anymore. Oh, I'm gonna be killed if I do something I'm not supposed to. That perspective feels so impactful and feels what could be authentic to some of the Jewish people's perspective, which again, why I push back on some criticism saying it takes light of an atrocity, because I feel like it's just a different perspective. I'm sure
Yeah.
some Jews that were rounded up, they knew what was to come and it was horrifying. And it was everything that all other movies make it out to be. But again, I'm sure for some Jews, they were like, I guess I get on this train. I'm in this room. Oh, wait, what's happening now? So I think it's just different perspectives.
Yeah, and just the whole pretense of, listen, y'all have been working for several weeks. Y'all haven't had a shower. It's time to give y'all showers, right? And they go into the gas chambers fully expecting to be showered, right? And then instead they get gassed, right? There's just a lot of deception, a lot of lying to the public going on during that period. So, which also brings me to the point of, I think that this movie does a good job of setting things up and paying them off.
Yes, it felt a callback to Die Hard. When we reviewed the movie of Die Hard, we really talked about how it's not like it's not rocket science, guys. You set up a concept, and then it returns later in the movie, and it pays off. It has a significance, and I felt like Die Hard did it really well. I think this movie was literally just setups and payoffs over and over and over again. But I think sometimes they're a little on the nose, and I think sometimes they're a little not. It's almost like I'm going back on what I said with Die Hard, because like in Die Hard, I really beat into the head of like, do something really simple. Set up, take off your shoes. Oh, now he has to walk on broken glass, like a really easy setup. I feel like with this movie, they did so many little setups and then so many micro payoffs that they became a little repetitive and a little too on the nose. Does that make sense?
I could see that. I think that it was often surprising how these things were paid off, though, like such as the kids promised a tank, right?
Yeah,
At the end,
he got a tank.
The Sherman rolls into the concentration camp, and that's his tank.
Oh, also, can I interrupt you for a minute? Can we agree that the movie pretty well acted? It won an Oscar. That American actor who spoke English was a bad actor. Was that just me?
That's how it always is with foreign films,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Just from my experience, the English actors are always sort of. It feels like English is their second language.
It also feels like they're almost playing, which this could be actually really fascinating, almost a little turn on us Americans. It almost feels like they're being directed under a stereotype. Like how Italians view Americans is how that American felt like he was directed. Hey,
Yeah.
can you just kind of be like really gung-ho and excited to be here and like smile and be like a cowboy? But also, I like this concept. Also, I'm not trying to derail us for too long. I don't want to take away your train of thought, but I can't remember if I had this conversation with you. When you listen to something not in your native language, I think, in my personal opinion, the acting almost gets better because you can't quite know if they're sounding goofy or cheesy. So there's some type of like, it's almost like a paradox. With your native language, I think you can pick up on subtext a lot easier. So therefore, the acting gets deeper. But with a different language, you almost strip away a level of understanding. So you're almost stripping it down to like an emotion. Happy, energetic, sad, angry, lustful, yada yada. And that like primal emotion is so much easier for us as the audience and us as humans to engage with, which makes, I feel like, when you listen to a movie in different language, I almost feel like it always feels like kind of better acting. But then the moment you return back to your native language, it sounds goofy. But to us, maybe people who listen to this and speak Italian, think it isn't as good as acting to them. I don't know. That's just a hypothesis I've been having for a while, listening to like movies in different languages and always being like, wow, they sound so cool and badass and interesting and emotional. And then as soon as an American person comes on, they always don't sound as heartfelt. And I am curious if it has to do with some weird level of interpretation in the language being stripped away due to the fact that we can't understand what they're saying. Anyways, that was a tangent.
No, I mean, we've had that conversation before, and I agree with you. I think a lot of that explains why, and I agree with these people. Some people are very, you have to watch the original language. Subs always better than dubs, particularly in the anime community. And what contributes to the sense that the subs are always better is it always seems better acted because we cannot tell if they're acting poorly.
Yeah. You really can't tell, which is so. I'm sure sometimes you can, some extreme cases, but in general, it's just harder to tell.
Yeah. And it was believable that the tank would roll in. He would think, "Oh, that's my tank. I won the game."
Yeah, which is cute, but I mean, I don't know. They just felt the setups and payoffs just felt, again, just personal. I liked that they did it. I liked, like, especially at the beginning of the movie where Guido is trying to win over his love interest and all of the things, just the stars align in the moon. And he basically is like able to see the future because of all these setups he did. Oh, he knows this lady throws a key out of her window to the janitor or to whoever. I don't know who it is. What lady? Why is this lady throwing keys outside of her window? That is like, don't do that, guys. Don't take that lesson home. Don't throw your key out dangerous to random men in the street. But like, yeah, so he knows this lady throws the keys out. If he says specific words, he knows this guy's going to come up and trade hats with him. So he's able to use this to kind of woo his love interest. So again, those setup and payoffs are fun. I thought it was a really fun gimmick that he had, but at some times it did feel a little on the nose and a little in your face and done over and over and over again.
That's fair. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Like, again, I think something that I liked this movie. I know I'm coming across harsh. I liked the movie. I thought the storyline was interesting. The characters were good. I think if there was a word to use that didn't gel with me, and I don't know if it's just a failure on the filmmaker or if it's just a different culture that I'm not as used to, which that's why I love doing this podcast, find out more about films. But it's maybe this movie didn't have a lot of subtext. There was some, for sure, but this movie felt a lot of like the Italians, like Guido's acting. Big, over the top, in your face, here's what it is, given to you on a platter. That's everything. And I felt like there was some missed opportunities to kind of step back and let a moment live. Again, like we're talking about earlier with acting, I'm really happy they gave this the best award to someone that was much more extroverted with their emotions, but at certain times I wish they had pulled back for certain things to land more. It's just my biggest critique of issue with the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I would say subtext wise or theming wise, the importance of love in getting you through difficult events and the motivating power of love to do the courageous thing or keep hope in adverse scenarios, right? Like Guido's catchphrase of, "Buongiorno, principessa," becomes a symbol at first of the love that he has for his lady love, and then it eventually becomes a symbol of the love and connection had by the entire family, right? When Joshua is introduced, he hops out of the box and he says, "Buongiorno, principessa." And that's how they communicate to the mom that, hey, like, we're still alive, we're still kicking, right? "Buongiorno, principessa." As far as like what the movie was getting at and if it had a point, I think that's the point that it was getting at, But I think perhaps it could have, communicated that clearer. But I don't know.
Well, going off that note, one of the big things I took away from this movie is something I've been talking a lot about in my life. is the idea of good luck, karma, and perspective. And I really feel like you see it in the title of the movie, Life is Beautiful. This is ultimately, at the end of the day, a Holocaust movie where the main character dies. How beautiful can life really be? But I think what I like about this movie is, like, Guido, he's not this swindler, gaslighting type of dude. He ends up lying to his son, but it's for the son's best interest to keep him pure and protected from the horrible atrocity that are happening around him. So it's not like Guido, like I was saying earlier, the fact that he died, I really liked because it didn't feel like he was a character with luck. And it felt like he was a character with perspective. At the beginning of the movie, he wakes up from a nap and the car's brakes are out. They don't have brakes. They could crash. They could die. At the end of the day, they crash, but then he turns it into a better thing by meeting the lady that ends up being his wife, his future wife. Yeah. So I'm trying to say is Guido is a character that's often met with horrible things. Racism, the Holocaust, people looking down on him. And he just goes at it with a go lucky, happy attitude. And really lucky, good things happen to him. And so I feel like you could look at Guido and be like, he's just a lucky character. But at the end of the day, he's actually not. I feel like if you look and watch the things that happen to him, he's actually a pretty unlucky guy where bad things happen. But it's the perspective of him deciding, actually, I'm going to have a good attitude about this. It sucks that I'm here. I'm going to have the best attitude I can and make the best outcome I can. And
he's not lucky. He just Yeah, he's not lucky. He just takes the opportunities that are presented to him. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And he's on the lookout for those positive opportunities rather than being all humbug about his situation. He's open to the light, right? Mm-hmm. And when he sees that light, he moves towards it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not only just he's waiting for positive opportunities. When the negative opportunities comes, he's able to spin it into something positive. Rather than when you see something negative for negative, you're able to see like, oh, okay, there's this bad area, but also look at this good part of it. And why that's so impactful to my own life is I just talking with different people, and it was a question for you, Jeffrey. I don't believe in good luck, bad luck, or karma. Just I've been talking with someone recently and talking about like how some people in our lives that you and I know, and some people that I know personally, just like, oh, they have the worst luck. And then I have been deemed with this, and my fiance has been deemed with this title of lucky people. And I've been thinking about it more and more. And I was like, you know what? I mean, no, I think me and my fiance are always going to look for the good in situations. When you're traveling home from a 14-hour trip and you're on the 13th hour and your car explodes at 3 a.m. and you have to go spend money you didn't want to spend to stay in a hotel, and instead of complaining, you go, I'm thankful no one's dead. I'm happy I get to stay at this hotel with you. This will be fun. And so, I don't know, sure, maybe if you statistically take everyone's life, if you were to take everyone's life and everything that happened to them, statistically lay it out, you could literally see on a bell curve of who has the most random bad things happen to them and the most random good things. Sure, I guess. But ultimately, I think it has everything to do with when something good or bad happens to you, what is the lens you decide to perceive it through? Not, oh, I'm just an unlucky guy, so of course I got another flat tire. Oh, I got a flat tire. I'm happy nothing worse happened, and this will be an easy, pretty cheap solution fix, and then we'll be on our way. And once you start to view that life that way, you never view things as catastrophic bad things, unless like it's, actually catastrophic, like someone you love dies, by a random arrow shot through their face. That sucks. That's pretty bad luck. But it turns the simple things into not bad luck or good luck, but just life, and you're deciding to flourish in those events.
It reminds me of my favorite quote is by a guy named G.K. Chesterton, and it's, an adventure is an inconvenience rightly considered. And I almost think that could be one of the central questions of this movie, right? The first act is about establishing an adventure is an inconvenience rightly considered. And then Act 2 is like, but what if that adventure is the Holocaust?
It is such a fun... It's such a fun concept, which is another thing I wanted to return to earlier of, I might be the type of person that actually enjoys movie the best if I have somewhat of an idea. I think trailers suck nowadays. Trailers are like 3.5 minutes long, and they're like 3 individual trailers stitched together. I often find after the first 45 seconds of a trailer, I'm like, that was good. But then they go into the next act where they just describe more. And then they go into a third act where they describe like the climax. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, don't tell me the movie. But I also
Yeah.
think if I go into a movie with nothing besides like one detail, I can craft my expectations and be let down. So I like going to a movie with a healthy amount of expectations that get me more excited and anticipating the movie and to be in the right headspace for the movie. But if I have too much, then it's like, well, you already know the movie. What's the point? So I'm just trying to discover that might be the best way for me to go into movies.
Yeah. That's fair. I would like for you to see it again at some point on a proper TV in one sitting, um, just to see if your opinions differ on it.
Yeah. And I will say, again, like I said earlier, I did like the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I definitely thought it was a interesting perspective to take on a Holocaust movie. So I do not think it was a bad movie for all the crap I'm giving it.
Yeah,
I mean, they
no,
dyed a
I mean,
horse green. What more do you want? Like, that was awesome.
that was really favorite character, Robin Hood.
Yeah, Robin Hood the horse. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, is there anything else that you feel is worth mentioning, or should we?
Ooh, that's worth mentioning. You know what? And this will maybe be dipping a little bit into my holy moment. But man, I thought they underutilized the mother. Again, I guess if you want to take it from the perspective, it's from the boy's perspective, it makes sense because the boy was with the father the whole time. But like, they just didn't do nothing with that woman. And they could have.
I agree with you. I'm really happy that you brought that up because I think that the actor or actress gave the most haunted expressions at the concentration camp. I thought that's when her performance was the most compelling, is when she was staring forlornly out the window, just staring ahead of her, or listening to the people around her talk about what happens to the elderly and the children.
Yeah, she was the most compelling when she became a loving mother and husband. I didn't dislike her when she was just the love interest. She was fine. She was pretty standard. Woman dating a man who she doesn't want to be with, and she finds a more free, charismatic man. Uh, but she became more interesting when she was like, I have something, like, I love these people and I want to fight for them. And then you see her fight for them when she shows up at the trains taking them away, and she's like, I'm getting on that train. And I was like, oh, look at this, look at her, she's doing stuff. She's doing
Yeah.
stuff. Good for her. Good job, woman. And then she didn't do anything for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Besides
Which
somehow
is
escape. Without,
Yeah.
it being said how.
Well, I think I would just assume that it's, she was among the Jews that were left behind.
Yeah, that's true.
But, yeah, that was a really strong moment there of she's told, hey, listen, like, you're not supposed to be on that train. They were supposed to be on that train, right? You're not Jewish. Go home, lady. She's like, no, they're family, right? They're a part of me. I'm a part of them. And I won't be parted from them. So,
Yeah, there is no home to go to without them there. So I will go.
Mhm.
Which, that's what I thought it was going to be. Like, this whole idea of, like, I can't go home. That's my husband and child. There's no home without them. Let me go there. And I was like, yeah, go be a family in the internment camps and, like, become friends and turn the jail into Paddington 2 jail. But then she immediately gets shipped off to the woman camp, and then we never see her again. I was like, oh, that's lame.
Yeah. Do you think the grandmother knew that the soldiers would be raiding the house and grabbing Guido and Joshua?
I don't know. I remember, yeah. So the grandmother character made it, or the mother of the love interest, made it seem like she was the one all for the daughter marrying the guy the dude that doesn't treat her well. So it kind of gives us this idea that clearly she doesn't like the daughter marrying a poor Jewish man. So maybe you could guess that, like, oh, she maybe even set it up to get rid of the husband. I don't know. I just feel like we didn't quite get enough of her character around. I could easily be convinced that yes, she was aware, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat of maybe she was involved, maybe she wasn't. It's just a very interesting thing that she was out on the town with her daughter when this happened.
Yeah.
But also she had that interaction that seemed pretty sweet with Joshua at the bookstore.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, can you imagine? So yeah, the Joshua, her grandson, a strange grandson that she never met before, she comes into the bookstore and she's talking to Joshua. Joshua doesn't know this lady's her grandmother. And she's like, would you like to meet your grandmother? And he's like, yeah, of course. And she's like, don't worry, you'll meet her tomorrow. Imagine you say that to a child and you know that you're sicking the Nazis on them to be taken away to an internment camp. I'm not saying that's what happened, but if it is, that's crazy. This woman's just like, I want my daughter back so she can marry like a rich Italian man, get this Jewish child and Jewish man out of here.
Yeah, but it might also be the case that she did not know what exactly would happen with them. She just knew that they'd be taken away somewhere.
Yeah, who knows if I tell the Nazi people there are 2 Jewish people here? Not me. But yeah, all that to be said, I do think, unfortunately, the mother could have been, and she didn't have to be as upfront and main character as the father, but there could have been just some like other moments, because she had such a strong moment of like, I'm getting on that. It was so chilling, so like, what's the word? So much purpose, so much intention behind it, so much conviction. That's the word I'm looking for. She had so much conviction of like, I'm getting on that train, and then she didn't do anything. We see Guido and the son break into the broadcasting room to give the broadcast of like, Guangito, princess, we're here. We see Guido trying to break her out later at the end of the movie. We see her just get information from this old lady being like, yeah, they gas old people and children, and she doesn't do anything. So she just was very passive for the rest of the movie, being sad, which I just thought was a shame.
No, I think that's super fair. As haunted as her expression was, it could have been made a little more powerful if she'd been more active. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess with all of that being said, we can move on to our holy moments, and then our rating, and then our wheel.
So many things. Yeah, my holy moment. It's one of 2 things that we talked about already. It either is the conviction of the mother in that moment where she's like, I'm getting on that train. I just thought that was so powerful and so beautiful. The idea of like, I don't care if I marry down, like, if I'm a full-blooded Italian, I married a poor Jewish man. I don't care that I could easily go start a second life and live happily ever after. There is no happily ever after without my children. I don't know what's on that train. I don't know where it goes. I don't know if I'll ever be seen again. I don't even know if I'll see the husband and child. But I'm getting on that train. And I just thought that was such a powerful thing to be like, my life is not my own anymore after marriage and having a child. I'm doing this with them, for better or for worse. And obviously it's for worse. So I love that conviction. I think it's just such a shame, like we've been talking about, it's kind of undercut by her character for the rest of the movie. And then my other holy moment would definitely be just the moment where, I don't know, maybe other people saw it coming from a mile away, but I did not see. I really thought that the Nazi doctor was going to help the son and dad get out of there. So when he like at the party, it's like, hey, come over here. I need to discuss something really important with you. And he's like, yeah. What is it? And you know what? You know what really got me in this scene? So they're at a dinner scene where the Jewish Guido is being a server. And then we have the Nazi doctor there. And he keeps like subtly hinting at him. I have something important I want to say to you. Drops a fork, whispers into his ear. Meet me over here after dinner. I'm going to tell you something important. And in all those interactions, Guido goes past him with a tray of food. And he's like, they even have my wife. Like a desperate cry. They have my wife and my child. So the Nazi guy knows where Guido's headspace is. And for him to have the audacity of being like, I can't sleep at night. My life is ruined. I don't know this riddle. And the depression that falls on Guido. That probably is my holy moment, because it was a gut punch to me. Again, this movie was pretty laughs and frills and everyone's invincible. What bad could happen? But I would say in that moment, the hammer fell, and it fell hard. And for that reason, I just thought I was gut punched, and it was really, really well acted. And for that's my holy moment.
Yeah, and I think it had been such a long time since I'd seen this movie, so I knew how it would end. But in that moment, I forgot what role the doctor had played. And so I was thinking what would happen was, listen, I can have it arranged for you to leave, or you and your son, but I can't facilitate your wife leaving. I'm sorry. And I was thinking Guido would go, well, I'm not leaving without her, right? But the fact that what he actually wanted to say to Guido was so frivolous and nothing, that hit so much harder, because he did not care about Guido at all.
Which is another thing, yeah. Going back to the comments of like, oh, this movie doesn't portray the atrocities of the Holocaust. Again, this is like an underplayed moment compared to like actually maybe showing the torture of the Jews like in other Holocaust movies. But I just felt like it was an underplayed moment that cut so deep. Again, it was one of these things that it wasn't visceral, it wasn't horrific in the normal sense, but because of those reasons, it just plays up to the atrocities of the Nazis and the desperation of the Jews so much more. So again, like for a reason like that, I think it is a great depiction and perspective of the Holocaust.
Yeah, like when the doctor saves Guido from the showers, we're thinking for a moment, oh, like he's feeling bad about what he's doing. He's feeling a little morally conflicted now that he sees it's affecting his friend. But as a matter of fact, he wasn't at all conflicted about the whole enterprise of gassing Jews. He just saw this waiter that was kind of a fun guy. And he's like, oh, I mean, it'd be a shame if I lose out on my riddles, right? And it's horrifying that that's the thing that made him pick Guido out from the lineup. It wasn't a sense of humanity and mercy and compassion. It was, this guy's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, exactly. It definitely highlighted the atrocity.
Yeah, and I would say that's also my only moment. So, darn you, Nathaniel.
Yeah, I feel like when I watch that moment, I mean, that's a beautiful thing about film. Even watching it in 95 degrees with the sun on the screen with tiny subtitles on my phone, that moment still hit really hard. And I think if you can hit a moment that hard with being able to draw me in that much and that horrible circumstances, then I think you have a great moment. So it makes sense. That's both of ours.
But also the ending when he's apprehended by the guard and he's being led away to slaughter. He sort of does that march for Joshua, and then he just casually walks to his death. I thought that was very poignant, especially because he's facing it with bravery, right? He's not cowering, he's not begging, he's not squealing. He's like, this is the path that I've chosen, and I've done what I can, and I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A good moment. It unfortunately doesn't hit as hard for me just because, again, I was at that point, I was like, if they don't kill the dad, I will be a little annoyed. So I'm really happy they did, but I just wasn't convinced they were going to. So I think since I wasn't convinced, I wasn't in the headspace for like that walk to be like an emotional send off. Because like, they're not. He's going to do the emotional walk, and then the Americans are going to burst in. So I think my suspension of disbelief was kind of burst in that moment. Really, really just being like, what type of movie is this? Like, is it all going to be chuckles and giggles and no one dies, or they're actually going to kill him? So since I was kind of being tug of war in my head what's going to happen, I feel like I wasn't able to focus on the emotion in that moment, making it kind of a less impactful moment. But I do see how it could be a good one.
And that's why I'd love for you to watch it again, knowing what this movie is.
Yeah. No, for sure. Add it to the list of many movies I need to rewatch for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if we want to give it a rating, I'll just go ahead and give it, as far as my experience of it, in my memory it's a 4, but I think in reality it might be closer to a 3.5.
That's fair. I'll give it a 3.25. You know, maybe on rewatch it'll be a 3.5. I think it's a movie that if I kind of know where the hills and valleys and twists and turns are going to go, I can enjoy it a little more. But just with the conditions of which I watched it and being so hard to find an anchoring, I just couldn't. It's just like, again, foreign film, they do different types of filmmaking than here in America, which is great, and I'm all for. It just was hard for me to find an anchor at any point of like, what is going on? What is the genre? What is the tone? I just feel like I'll be honest, I feel like I didn't find any anchor, and I didn't really know exactly what was going on until the end of the movie. I didn't know until they killed the dad. Like, okay, this is what we're doing. And maybe that makes me a bad movie watcher. I don't know, but I think for those reasons, it's only a 3.25, but I definitely see the potential here for it being a good movie or a great movie. It's already a good movie, but like a great movie.
All right. Well, now that we've handled our ratings, our ranks, how's about that wheel? Are you feeling ready to host another movie?
I am. Yeah, I got the wheel up right now. I'm hoping for either Terminator or Steve Jobs. I want something that's kind of short-ish and just like more fun. I know maybe not Steve Jobs is the most fun, but I find those type of. It's funny. My fiance hates biopics with like a cruel person taking advantage of humans. I love those movies. I love The Social Network. I love Blackberry. I like those types of movies. I'm just really hoping it's not Come and See, which is like a 2.5 hour long. It's my foreign film pick, but I think I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's gonna be a very upsetting war movie. So kind of the opposite of this. And I think that would just be a drudge. And again, since I have to watch it on a laptop, and my fiance already told me like, she doesn't watch war movies for the most part, so I had to watch it alone. So I'm really hoping it's not that movie. But yeah, I'm going to spin the wheel right now. Boop. And it's going in a circle. And it is. Yes. Okay. It was really close to being Come and See, but it's Terminator, which was my number one pick. Heck yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. And guys, that is for the genre of Schwarzenegger. And the only reason this genre exists is because Jeffrey watched don't tell me Jeffrey, not Fallout. It's Total Recall. Jeffrey watched Total Recall and was like, "This is great. I want to watch it again. We should put a category so I can watch it again." So he was like, "What if we do Schwarzenegger?" So for that category, I just
think it's an incredible like action movie that you would really enjoy. I love the world building. I love the production design. But we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah, I'm excited. I only watched the remake of Total Recall when I was like 12, but I'm excited. Terminator is one of those series that was on like before streaming really became a thing. It was on one of the dish networks all the time, like Spike TV or something, and they would just show reruns of different Terminator movies. So I just have like all of the Terminator movies mashed into a blender, and I can just pick out scenes. There's a world in which I've seen all of this first movie all the way through, but I really don't know. So I'm really excited to watch this movie. I know it's iconic, and I think I will like it. So yeah, next week I'll be hosting Terminator. And guys, don't forget, since I am in Iowa, since I don't have my desktop, there will be no video, so it will only be audio. And the audio will probably be a little rougher edited than normal because I don't have a great way to edit it. But that's just for the next few weeks. We'll be getting back to our normal schedule at the end of July.
All right. With that being said, folks, you can catch us on YouTube or Spotify. We also have social media with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can catch our reels there. And please send us an email at theholymomentpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing input from y'all. We love you. And so with I've been saying with that being said a lot. Goodbye, folks.
I'm going to go take a cold shower. I'm drenched in sweat.